1966 on the World of Sport show, a heavyweight bout between Quasimodo vs Vic Stewart took place, as well as middle heavyweight bout between Tony Charles vs Monty Swan. World of Sport was again shown on this date in 1974, with a card consisting of Adrian Street vs Mick McMichael, Peter Zakas vs Sid Cooper, and Alan Sargent vs Eddie Capelli. In 1980, the WWF held a show at a packed out Philadelphia Spectrum. On this show, Bob Backlund faced off against Bobby Duncan, Hulk Hogan took on Tito Santana, Pat Patterson squared off against Captain Lou Albano, and Ken Patera went up against Ivan Putski. On this date in 1985, numerous different promotions aired their weekly shows. These included Southeastern Championship Wrestling, who aired a show that included Rat Patrol vs the Executioners, Jimmy Golden, Arn Anderson and Bill Ash vs Mr. Olympia, Porkchop Cash and Les Freeman, and then Bob Armstrong vs the Assassin. Pro Wrestling USA, which had a show that consisted of the likes of Curt Hennig and Greg Gagne vs Dennis Stamp and Billy Robinson, Kamala vs Tom Zenk, and the Road Warriors vs the Fabulous Ones. And also, the WWF held a championship wrestling show which consisted of the likes of Greg Valentine vs Joe Murto, R.T. Reynolds and Mr. X vs Mike Rotunda and Barry Windham, and then Aldo Marino and Jim Powers versus the team of Ken Patera and Big John Studd. The UWF held a show on this date in 1991 at the St. John High School in New York in front of 800 fans. It boasted a card that included Cactus Jack vs Sunny Beach, Steve Williams vs Don Morocco, and Paul Orndorff vs Greg Valentine. In 1998, WCW took place in Jacksonville, Florida, with the likes of Chris Benoit vs Dean Malenko, Juventud Guerrera vs Rey Mysterio Jr., and a main event where the Steiner brothers beat the Outsiders for the WCW Tag Team titles. On that week's episode of Raw, it was probably more remembered for the segments rather than the matches. On this episode, Stone Cold Steve Austin keeps stunning everyone on sight, and Kane comes down to the ring to save his brother The Undertaker from a beatdown by the original DX. ZZW Answering the Challenge was held in the ECW Arena on this date in 2002. On this card, Trent Acid faced Ruckus and Winger in a three-way dance for the ZZW Junior Heavyweight Championship, and in the main event spot, Justice Payne faced off against the Messiah for the ZZW Championship. ZZW held another show on this date in 2008 called New Year's Resolutions, which was held in the old ECW arena again. Nick Gage regained the ZZW Championship in the main event against Danny Havoc, Devon Moore, Drake Younger, Eddie Kingston and Ruckus in a six-way ultra-violent rules match. At PWG's DDT4 in 2013, the Young Bucks had to wrestle three different teams on the night to come away with the PWG Tag Team titles. The teams they beat were Rich Swann and Ricochet, Brian Cage and Michael Elgin, and then El Generico and Kevin Steen. And finally, in 2020, WWE held their New Year's Revolution Super Show in the Corbin Arena, Kentucky. Roman Reigns defeated King Corbin in the main event, where the loser had to eat dog food. Also on the card, there was a triple threat match between Asuka, Charlotte Flair and Natalya, and The Fiend faced off against The Miz in a match for the WWE Universal title.